Hi there, I'm Teresa from lilly-tree, and today's tutorial focuses on this wire Savoy Knot bracelet. The Savoy Knot is really versatile in wire. I'm using 2 wires to make this particular project, but if you just used 1 wire you could make links for a necklace chain, or you could go up to 4 or 5 wires and make a focal piece. The materials you need for this project are 1mm diameter copper wire, 0.9mm diameter copper wire, some jump rings and some small beads. Mine are 4mm sodalite. The reason that I'm using the 0.9mm wire is to get through those beads, so you might need to adjust that to suit. And the tools you need are your wire cutters, flat nose pliers, preferably 2 pairs, and your bail making pliers. And for the clasp I'm using my jeweller's torch and tweezers and a hammer and block. And to patina the piece, some liver of sulphur. Now to make the knot I'm using the 1mm diameter wire, and I'm just going to cut 2 pieces around about 10 to 15 centimetres long. I recommend going a little bit longer when you first start making the knot, it makes things a little bit easier. And if you're new to making this knot, the best way to start is actually just to use 1 piece of wire, get a feel for how the knot takes shape, and then move up to 2 wires or more. So try to start with your wires running next to each other as parallel as possible, and you want to keep them parallel as you make the knot. Working quite close to the bottom of the wire, bend it into a P shape with your working end going over the top of that wire. You then want to bend it back again, and this time go under that end of the wire, and try to keep those curves smooth. And then finally you want to thread that through the eye that you first made, so over and then under. And that's the basic knot shape made. You then want to tighten that knot up. So if you take the inside wire first and hold on to the knot to keep the wire stable, just pull first that inside wire and then the outer wire to tighten the knot up. You don't need to go the whole way first off. So turn it round, take the inside wire of the other side and pull that to tighten, and then the outside wire again. And then you can go back to re-tighten the other one. You might find it useful just to bend the other wires temporarily out of the way, just to help tighten that knot a little bit further. And just keep pulling and tightening that knot until you get it the size that you want it. So that's the first knot tied. And once you're happy with the size, you can just lock everything in place just by clamping it with the flat nose pliers. And now's a good time to make the other knots, and then you can check that they're all the same size and adjust if necessary. Now before you finish the ends, you really need to decide what you're using the link for and how you're placing them. So if you were wanting to place them kind of end to end, then the ends of the wire would need to be pointing upwards so they can link together in that manner. I actually want them to be linked side by side, so the wires need to be coming out from the sides, so just gently bend them round. And once I'm happy with the position of the wires, I can then cut the excess off and make my loops. Now I'm going to take one wire at a time in the smallest loop on the baling pliers and just gently bend that around, and it will lock into where the wires are crossing over it. I can then take the other wire, and you might need to turn the piece round and just get that into the same position. I can then do the same with the other side, and that's one of the links made. And you just need to finish the other knot links in the same way. Now to make the clasp, I'm using the 0.9mm wire just so I can get a smaller knot, but I'm going to form the knot in exactly the same way, make the P shape, then bend the wire back round and through the first loop and tighten it up. As you can see, I've left a bit longer end one side. That will make the hook. In the shorter ends I'll create the loop as before, and then with the longer ends on the inside wire I'm just going to take that around the largest round of the baling pliers. That's going to form the basic shape of the hook. And then I'll take the outside wire around with my fingers just to follow that curve around. Now I need to finish these ends, and normally I just make a small loop in the end, but because there's two wires that then means they can kind of move apart. So instead I'm going to ball the ends with the torch. So if I carefully move those ends a little way away from the rest of the clasp and then cut them off 1 or 2 millimeters lower than I want the end to eventually be, and then I'm just going to take the torch to those ends and holding it in the vertical position and just heat those ends up until you see them melting and beginning to ball up. You can make the ball on the end a bit larger than this, just remember to allow enough wire for it. Now because I've heated it, these wires are now quite soft, so I'm just going to work harden them again by gently tapping that hook with the hammer. I'm not going to touch the rest of it, that's fine as it is, but just to help that hook hold its shape. Now I've got all my components ready. I'm going to patina them before I assemble the bracelet. And I'm going to patina the jump rings and the wire that I'm going to make the beaded links out of at the same time. So I now want to make the beaded links. I'm going to take one of my small size beads, and then with my 0.9mm patinaed wire I'm going to make a small loop with the smallest round on my baling pliers in the end. I then want to kink that back, and feel free to use your pliers rather than your thumbnail for this, and then I'll thread on that bead. I can then cut that wire to length and make my loop on the other end, but this time I'm making it 90 degrees to the other one. So if you bend that wire back against the bead. You can then make the loop as before. And as you can see, the loops are now 90 degrees to each other. Make the other beaded links in the same way, and now we're ready to lay out how we want the bracelet to go together. And I've got 2 beaded links between each knot. I know I need jump rings at the end to attach everything together, and 1 to complete the clasp. So we now just need to attach all of this together. So I'll take one of the beaded links and open one of the loops on the end with my flat nose pliers. I'm then going to hook that through the knot itself opposite the made on the knot, and just close that loop again. And then with the second bead link of that set, open one of the loops on that one and hook it through the loop on the knot link. I'm then going to attach them in the opposite way on the next knot link. So for that one, I've just put on, slide that through the side of the knot itself, and for the other link, pop that through the loop. We can then just continue to assemble the bracelet in the same way. Now for the ends, I just want to reduce them down into a V shape to be able to put the clasp on. But you'll notice that the ends of those beaded links aren't in the same place. So if I just put the jump ring on as they are now, the clasp is going to be askew. So instead I'm going to put an extra jump ring on the shortest of those bead links just to get it back up level and make the clasp level and even. And then the bracelet's complete and ready to wear. Hope you enjoyed the video. If so, please press the like button below. Subscribe to my channel and head over to my blog for more hints, tips and projects. Thanks for watching. See you next time.